What's going on, YouTube? It is Will here, back again, once again, for yet another episode of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. Here once again with my boy Shane. Another great week of football. Last week, we got many upsets, many good games. It was just this year of football. I don't know what it is. This year is just a very fun year for football. Not really too sure what it is, but Shane, how have you been, man?
Good, man. I mean, listen, last week was pretty entertaining on the college side and the NFL side. But yeah, my boy Brady coming back. My boy Brady. But we're doing good, my guy. We're doing good.
This week for football will be good too for college and obviously the NFL. And this is where the football really starts to kick it off, especially for college. There's only a couple weeks left in college football, and people are fighting for New Year Six bowls and college football playoff bids, and obviously the teams in the NFL are trying to continue their playoff push. So it's a good week for football, and then obviously in the world of sports, college basketball is back. I don't know if anyone likes that or not, but college basketball is back. The NBA is in full swing. Every sport's playing besides, the World Series just ended. So we got all of the sports, and it's a good time to be a fan of sports. So, Shane, do you have anything else you want to add before we just get right into the post game from the game that was on Thursday?
No, let's get to it.
So, yeah, so this is a very interesting prime time decision to put these two teams on, two below average teams, but it's an NFC South divisional battle between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers debuted their new Black Panther helmets. I don't know if it was for like the new Black Panther movie that just came out or not, but let me just say though their uniforms did look fire. Did you see them, Shane? The Panthers uniforms?
I did not. I'll have to look at them afterwards, but I did not
But
see
yeah,
them.
it's
I
like
they're
black on black. They had a black helmet, black uniform, black pants. It looked really cool. But anyway, so the Panthers did win this game 25-15. Some stats from the Panthers: PJ Walker. There's a little bit of a QB controversy. Some people thought that Baker Mayfield was going to start after he had the great second half, but they're going to rock with PJ Walker. PJ Walker, 10 for 16, that's 63%, 108 yards. But the big winner here for the Panthers was Deonta Foreman, who has had a career revival. Last year, he was Derrick Henry's backup who carried the load for him when he had the foot injury. And now, after McCaffrey got traded, now he's the guy here. 31 carries, 130 yards. That's about 4.2 a carry and a touchdown. And then the leading receiver for the Carolina Panthers was Terrence Marshall Jr. He had one catch for 43 yards. Flip the script to the Falcons. Marcus Mariota led the Falcons. He was 19 for 30. That's 63% as well. With 186 yards, two touchdowns, and one interception. Marcus Mariota was also the leading rusher for the Falcons with three carries for 43 yards. That's 14.3 yards per carry. And the leading receiver, Demir Birds, three catches for 58 yards. So, going into the game, it was a very run-heavy script. It was also very sloppy with missed field goals and missed extra points because in North Carolina, it was very rainy during the game. I think because there's another like tropical storm that's kind of like ending, I believe. So it's just kind of a bunch of rain and stuff. But the Panthers took advantage of it as Deonta Foreman had yet another great showing against the Falcons. And he's looking to be like a very good back. And, like I said, he was behind Derrick Henry. Now he was behind Christian McCaffrey. But do you think Deonta Foreman, Shane, is going to be the Panthers' like future at the running back position or no?
I mean, yeah, I think he'll be the number one string guy. I think he'll carry most of the loads. Obviously, he's not an elite running back quite yet. Like we talk about Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, like you just mentioned, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. But the way he's been playing lately, and the way he played when Henry was out most of last year, he's been playing really good at a really high level. So it's exciting to see some of these running backs get the opportunity to see what they can do.
Yeah. On the Falcons side of things, Marcus Mariota played very sloppy. If you want to just take it to Marcus Mariota not being very good, or it was very rainy to be fair, but he still did play very bad. And what sucks for not just fantasy football owners of the players, but people in general, is that you have a guy like Kyle Pitts who I was telling people I was watching the game with, like, Kyle Pitts is like 6'6", 245, and he can run a 4.4. Like, that is, like, unheard of. And he has so much potential, and I really feel like he's being held back by Marcus Mariota. I mean, we saw how he did with Matt Ryan last year. He played really awesome. He made the Pro Bowl. You know, he was a really good tight end, and now this year his numbers are starting to dip. And Drake London, believe a top 10 pick. You know, he was the first receiver taken. You know, he's supposed to be the next Roddy White, the next Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Then, you know, the Falcons have had a lot of great elite receivers the last couple of years in our lifetimes. You know, I know he's not a receiver, but Tony Gonzalez, he was on the Falcons for a bit. You know, they've always had good, solid pass catchers. And Drake London was supposed to be the next guy up, and he's not been having a great year because Mariota's holding him back. Do you think Kyle Pitts and Drake London, Shane, have a bright future, or do you think they're going to be held back as long as Marcus Mariota is their quarterback?
I think they have a bright future if they leave Atlanta. I don't, especially like not even so. I'm not high on London. I'm not one of those guys that's very high on him. I think he's a little bit overrated. But Kyle Pitts is the real deal. I think he's the next great tight end. You know, after Kelsey and after, you know,
Kittle, Andrews.
Yeah, Andrews. Throw a couple other names in there. I think Pitts is the next great generation to come up at the tight end position. Like we had, like you said, Tony Gonzalez, and then Andrew Gates. Rob Gronkowski was the biggest. Honestly, I think Rob Gronkowski is the best tight end ever. Just like everything that he did when he was in England, even with Tampa, and then, you know, it transferred to Kelsey and Andrews and Kittle.
And even if you go before Gronk, like before our lifetime, like Shannon Sharp for the Broncos.
Yeah.
You know, I forgot Shannon Sharp. He was he revolutionized the tight end position. There was another tight. Oh, Kellen Winslow. That's a long time ago. Like I'm talking like in the '80s. He was with the Chargers with Dan Fouts. A little bit of a football fun fact. And before, like in the '80s and the '70s, like a long time ago, the tight end was basically an extra blocker. And then Kellen Winslow from the San Diego Chargers came up, and they used him to, like, he was a pass-catching tight end, like literally one of the first ones ever. And people were like, "Oh my God, like, how do we stop this guy?" And now he was the first one. And after him, like I said, it was Shannon Sharp, who you guys probably know from, he's with Skip Bayless on TV. Shannon Sharp's one of the best tight ends ever. And then from him, he passed the torch to Tony Gonzalez, like Shane said. And then Antonio Gates, it was him and Tony Gonzalez. And then they passed the torch to Gronk, who then Gronk pretty much passed the torch to Travis Kelce. So then what you're saying is now it's going to be Travis Kelce to Kyle Pitts.
Pretty much. And, like, not to get too into it, but like you said, Gates shared it with Gonzalez, where Gronk, he didn't share it with anybody. It was Gronk. Like, you can't
for
really.
The longest time, Gronk was the best tight end. There was no debate.
There's no debate, and now, you know, Andrews has a right to that name. Like you said, Kittle. Like, I know you're very high on Kittle, but Kelsey obviously. But I think you don't really see a lot of big young tight ends. There's very few, and Pitts is one of them. So I think if Pitts leads Atlanta and he gets himself an actual good quarterback, I think he's gonna ascend to that, or start continuing to ascend to that level of generational tight end.
Right. Now, in this NFC South division, this division is let's just to keep on going. I know we kind of went off topic there, but this division is a very not bad. It is, I would say, it's very mediocre. And the thing is like 8 or 9 wins could win you this division, kind of like the NFC East a couple years ago when the Washington won it a couple years ago. They had a losing record. I could definitely see this happening with this division. So I got 2 questions for you, Shane. Both are about the quarterback positions of each team. So with the Panthers, obviously Baker Mayfield, he's not going to be the starter. That got proven. He had a good second half, and he still didn't start. But do you think that when Sam Darnold is ready to play, that the Panthers will start Sam Darnold, or do you think P.J. Walker is the starter for the rest of the year?
I think the smart decision is to start P.J. Walker for the rest of the year. He adds a new element to this offense that they tried to do with Baker Mayfield. As you know, Baker Mayfield was kind of a hybrid in college at the quarterback position, and P.J. Walker is way better at doing that. He is electrifying. He doesn't remind me of Patrick Mahomes, but the energy on the field he has with his teammates reminds me of when Patrick Mahomes first came in 20, his first year starting after Alex Smith left the Kansas City Chiefs. I've always been high on PJ Walker. Like I've mentioned this to you in private. Like I've watched all of his games from the XFL, the CFL, all those other leagues he's been in. He's 20. I think he's 28, so he's still young. So he can still achieve a lot of stuff in the NFL. So I think this is his time to really prove like why he should be in the NFL.
Now, my other question for you is, this is a big one, and I will chip on this one too. Now, is it time for the Falcons to move on from Marcus Mariota and start rookie from Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder? Now, the reason why they keep on starting Marcus Mariota because, and quote, I think this is Arthur Smith, the head coach, he said the playoffs are not out of the picture just yet. So they think that Marcus Mariota gives them the best option to make the playoffs. And I think I said this to you in private as well, like because when he got drafted, people are like, Atlanta's got their franchise quarterback. But people don't realize that it's very, very unlikely that someone you draft in the third round on as a quarterback becomes your starter. And the only one I can think of off the top of my head is Tom Brady, who got drafted in the sixth round. Obviously, we all know the story. But I mean, if you think of it, Dak Prescott too, he was drafted in the fifth round. But I mean, that's 2 out of 30. You know, I'm not including PJ Walker in this because his story is completely different. I mean, like, because he's not their franchise quarterback. You know, like you look at like Kirk Cousins, he was drafted in the second or third. He was maybe another late round pick, but Aaron Rodgers first round, Daniel Jones first round, Jalen Hurts second round, Carson Wentz first round, Patrick Mahomes first round.
He was seventh pick. He was seventh fifth, I believe.
Yeah,
Same with Josh Allen.
Yep. Lamar Jackson and the first round, Joe Burrow. So I mean, I could go on and on, but most of the time your quarterbacks are in the first round. So my first for you, Shane, is: do you think the Falcons should start Desmond Ridder this year? Yes or no?
No, only because of that statement made by the head coach. Just because, like you said, this division, the best team out of this division is obviously the Buccaneers. They haven't been playing that well, but like we'll get into that game after this one. That we'll talk about. But he's not wrong because, like you said, with how the playoffs now, there's a lot more seeds for each division to make the playoffs. In the NFC, there's a lot of teams like outside of the NFC East that are not good. The only teams I think that are above 500 that are really pulling away are the Seahawks. These are teams that aren't in the obviously the NFC East are the Seahawks, and then the Vikings.
The 49ers are 4-4. Oh, the Vikings, yeah, yeah.
And yeah. What's Falcons' record? 3-5, 3-6, 4-5.
4-6, I believe.
4-6. So you could easily in the Buccaneers technically lead the division with 4-5 with the win over Atlanta. So you can you that is a valid statement. Like they can still make the playoffs for in the NFC. Now, granted, Marcus Mariota's been in the playoffs. I think twice. Once or twice?
At least once, because I remember last time that he was with the Titans, obviously, and last time he threw a touchdown pass to himself. Remember, he threw it and it got batted at the line. He caught it and dove in. He threw a touchdown.
2018, I believe.
Yeah, it was the last time Alex Smith was the starter for the Chiefs, and then the year after they went to Mahomes.
Yes, and they lost. I think the Titans lost that game as well.
No, they won. They came back. The Chiefs blew like a 20-point lead.
You're correct. But yeah, but that's go ahead, man.
No, I was just about to say that then they got blown out next week by the Patriots and Brady, but
but no, so that just proves my point. Like Marcus Mariota does have experience, so he is the best option at this point. You're not going to put a rookie in if you have a chance. Like why would you do that? You know what I mean? It's football 101. You don't put a rookie in for playoffs unless you have no other option. So, I think Mariota will be the starter for the rest of the year. Granted, if they start getting on a losing streak, because like we said, this division, a lot of the teams kind of have the same record, so it's kind of like climbing the rope to see who wins the division title.
Right. Shane, why don't you lead us off into our first game with the pregame analysis?
All right. So our first game we're going to talk about is the Seahawks against the Buccaneers. The Seahawks are 6-3. The Buccaneers are 4-5. After a much-needed comeback victory versus the Rams, the Buccaneers are looking to keep the momentum going versus a surprisingly good Seahawks team this year. There's a lot of talk about who's comeback player of the year. Some people say Saquon Barkley. Some people say Geno Smith with his career revival. So my question for you here, Will, is I have two questions. Are the Buccaneers starting to get back on track with how Tom Brady performed last week and how he looked in the comeback victory against the Rams? And then is Geno Smith a favorite for comeback player of the year with how he's been playing with the Seahawks?
So, yeah, with Tom Brady, let me just say I hope so, because I got Chris Godwin in fantasy, and I really need Chris Godwin to start getting some touchdowns because I traded for him in fantasy, Shane, and I expect Chris Godwin to go off because he's a dog. Right, so I'm gonna say it better turn around because I'll be pissed if I have Chris Godwin and he don't catch a single touchdown. I swear to God. But comeback player of the year, I mean, I think it's unanimously Geno Smith. But the only thing is like most times it's for people who have injuries. Last year, or I know Alex Smith won it when he almost like broke his leg or whatever. Last year it was Joe Burrow who again came back from the ACL tear. His whole knee, really, ACL, whatever, whole thing. So it's usually reserved for people who had injuries last year. So, if that's not the case, if they make an exception on 100%, but if it is someone that have an injury, then I'd have to say it'd probably be Derrick Henry. But you can't deny that Geno Smith's story is incredible. And it needs to be acknowledged that, like, this is probably not, I don't want to say happened in our lifetime, but, like, I don't remember this ever happening in my lifetime, where it's, like, a journeyman quarterback who's in the league for 7-8 years, has this random career resurgence out of nowhere, and now is potentially their franchise quarterback for the next 5 or so years. I just never seen this before,
Yeah, it's actually crazy because he's product to be the next great Jet quarterback. So, like, in a way, he fulfilled that, but not with the Jets. Because when he joined the Jets were downright terrible. Terrible. And then every team he went to was just terrible. Like, at the time. When he went to the Giants, that's when Eli Manning's career started going down, and the Giants were, like, almost like in a pitfall. Who else did he go to?
Chargers?
The Chargers. They weren't very good at the time, I don't believe. So, like, he comes to Seattle. I think he signed like a 2-year deal or something. I'm not exactly
to back
sure.
up Russell Wilson.
Yeah. So, like, it's just the fact that he randomly gets on these teams because he's not in the news anymore. Because, like, oh, he's a bust for so long. They're like, Geno's a bust. And then Russell leaves. They don't have a quarterback. They're like, okay, Geno Smith has the most experience. We'll just, tank for this year, I guess. And they start winning games. They're 6-3 now. They lead their division. They're the second. They're technically one of the top 5 teams in the NFC.
No, right. And another thing is when the Broncos traded them Drew Lock. I know Drew Lock's not very good, but I honestly thought that, like, okay, Drew Lock is going to be the starter for the Seahawks. I thought for certain. I was like, this is Drew Lock's team. Right, yeah. And I thought for sure because I was like, the Seahawks wouldn't want to have a package deal for Drew Lock if they didn't want to start him. That was my thing. I know Drew Lock's not the best, but at the time I thought he was better than Geno. And then in training camp, they didn't announce a starter until like the last week of a week before the first week. Like Geno won that like in the preseason, and it was like they took turns. And it was like a really tight battle. And then I think what that did it was Drew Lock had a shitty preseason game, like he threw 3 picks or whatever. And then Pete Carroll was like, "I put in Geno in," but he didn't win the starting job until like a week before the season started. So the story's crazy, and I really feel like it needs to get more publicity on how good Geno Smith is. But who do you think's going to win this game between these teams? It's in Germany too. I don't know if you said that. It's in Munich.
Yeah, no, it's in Germany. So
there is no home field.
There's no home field. Germany's not really a big football place, so I don't think the crowd's really gonna affect either team. I'm going with the Buccaneers, but only because I don't think Geno's ever beaten Tom Brady. And obviously, we know back in his Jet days, he faced Tom Brady twice a year for a couple of years. Um, I think he's like 0-5 against Brady. I don't know if that's correct. You'll have to fact check me on that one. But I
think
do
you're
have
right.
I do have the Buccaneers winning this game. The way Tom Brady just looked out there last week on that game-winning drive, I think the villain of Tom Brady is back. I think he's gotten over that stupid divorce, bull crap, and I think he's coming to destroy the rest of the league for the rest of the year because you gotta at some point Brady like the Tom Brady has to come back.
Right.
He's just too great. He's too much of a villain not to not be good and not make the playoffs with this type of talent on his team. So I have the Bucks winning 24-16. But I like you said, I think Geno Smith's story is incredible. And no matter like whether Seahawks make the playoffs or not this year, it's astonishing. He's like sixth in passing yards as well. I don't know if you knew that. He's like sixth or seventh in passing yards.
Right. I'm going to have to go with the Buccaneers, too. I'll say the score is 23-20, a little bit closer, but it definitely will be a good game, and it's really awesome to see Geno Smith finally flourishing. It's really, like I said, awesome. So let's get into our next game. Back over here in America, no more of that European game crap. We got the Vikings, who are 7-1 against the Bills, who are 6-2. Now, Josh Allen and Bills Mafia got very lucky with his elbow injury. He does not need surgery for his UCL. It's just a sprain, not a tear. That's very, very lucky. And this is the same injury that pitchers have for their arms when they need Tommy John surgery. And as you know, Shane, Tommy John takes you out pretty much 2 years, like 18 months. But, if he did need Tommy John surgery, he would be out for the next 2 years. So he got very lucky, but he does not need Tommy John surgery. On the Vikings side, Kirk Cousins looks great. He finally is playing up to his contract after years of just mediocre average play. He had to come from behind victory against the Commanders. I believe the Commanders were winning 17-7. Don't quote me on that. But it definitely was a come from behind victory. It was a revenge game. Kirk used to play for them, and then they were chanting like, you like that. That was like, Kirk's little chant in Washington. And then he came back in the locker room and he did the same thing back to him. So they were winning 17-7, the Commanders, and Kirk let a fourth quarter come back. So Kirk's looking great. You can't really deny it. What do you think? You think Kirk's looking good?
I think the whole I don't think it's just Kirk. I think the whole team's looking good. The Vikings, like this is going to be a very good game, and I think people are writing the Vikings off just because of they're not getting all the attention. Because all the attention is on how bad the Packers are doing, not how good the Vikings are doing. Like the Vikings are a favorite, like a deep contender for the Super Bowl, in my opinion, and they're looking really good. And with I know you said Josh Allen don't need surgery. As you know, Will, I've played both sides of the game of football and baseball. I was a pitcher. I know about the UCL injury. Like I think they limited Josh Allen to practice throughout the whole week. But I think this is going to be a very interesting game.
Right, and T.J. Hawkinson, Vikings' new tight end, he looked good, and expect him to get more and more incorporated in the offense as he gets familiar with the playbook. Josh Allen, even if he gets cleared, I think he should sit out. The Bills need him to be healthy if they want to win their first Super Bowl, and a game in November is not as important as a game in February. The Super Bowl.
And so, you got to think of this, like, not to cut you off, but with the Josh Allen injury, the colder it gets, the more those type of injuries flourish back up because your body doesn't has to adapt, and your body's not meant it's easier to get injured, whether it's a muscle, a bone, anything in the cold rather than the warm. So in playing in Buffalo, obviously, Will, you live in Buffalo, so you would know Buffalo gets really cold around this time. So you are right. I think he should sit out this game, but who knows? I don't know. I think it's game time decision for him right now.
Right. And another thing is the question here I have is
the battle of elite wide receivers. Stephon Diggs used to play for the Vikings. And if Josh Allen, assuming he doesn't play, then Case Keenum, who was the Vikings quarterback when they had the miracle, will be the Bills quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see their connection. That's fun to see. And the Bills actually traded for Case Keenum too, so they want him to be their backup. But like I said, Stephon Diggs used to play for the Vikings. Now he's on the Bills. And then the pick that the Bills traded for Stephon Diggs, they took Justin Jefferson. So, I mean, it looks like that trade was very fair. But who do you think is better, Shane? This is just an opinion question. Who's better, Justin Jefferson or Stephon Diggs?
Dang. Because they're so similar. They're so similar when you really look at it. They're very explosive wideouts. Right now, I'll put it to you this way. Right now, Stephon Diggs. But the way Justin Jefferson has been playing his first couple of years, he's on track to be better than Stephon Diggs, like, at this point of where Stephon Diggs is. You know what I mean? Like, so when
Right.
Justin Jefferson gets to the point where Stephon Diggs is right now, Justin Jefferson will be better.
Right.
In my opinion, if he keeps on track, because it took a couple years for Stephon Diggs to really get going in the league.
Right. My pick to win this game is the Vikings. I think they're going to win 27-24. I think it'll be a close game. If Josh Allen plays, I think the Bills win. But I got the Vikings winning. But what about you, Shane?
Whether Josh Allen plays or not, I'm very high on the Vikings now. I think the Vikings win either way, just because they're going to limit Josh Allen to deep passes with that sprain. So they're not going to have the explosive type of plays that they usually have. So I think it's going to be 21-20 Vikings, and it should be a very entertaining game. On to our next game. We're kind of flipping the script here. Two very good teams, and now these teams are two very bad teams. We have the Lions, who are 2-6, versus the Bears, who are 3-6. Detroit stopped a 5-game losing streak last week. So the Lions are hoping to win consecutive games so far. The Lions' defense is just terrible. It's really their main reason why they're losing a lot of these games. I know the one game they got shut out, but their offense has a lot of high hopes. Justin Fields and this offense has been improving week by week. However, in this game, they may show their true potential against a terrible defense with the Lions, like I said. So my question for you, Will, is do you think the Bears are finally starting to get it going on offense? And what can the Lions do to up their defense so they stop, losing? Because the Lions team are a very underrated team. Same with the Bears in certain aspects, but their defense is just terrible.
Right. See, now, I think we said this last week. It's finally good to see the Bears have a good offense, and it's finally starting to click. Justin Fields. I mean, I wrote him off. I didn't think Justin Fields was going to be good. He struggled in the beginning. I'm not going to lie, but to be fair, there has not been a single good Ohio State quarterback in the league. Look at the last one, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. But Dwayne Haskins was supposed to be the future for the Commanders, and he didn't work out. And then not even just him, like Cardale Jones, J.T. Barrett, just to name a few. I think E.J. Manuel. Oh wait, maybe he went to Ohio State. Don't quote me on that. But my point is you have a bunch of these quarterbacks that just go to Ohio State, they don't work. And Justin Fields is literally the first good Ohio State quarterback. Excuse me. Now, with their offense, I think it's going to get better and better week by week. Chase Claypool is going to be a great fit for this offense. I think I already said that. So is Darnell Mooney, obviously. So I think it'll be fun to watch the Bears in the next coming years. Now, for the Lions on the defensive side, just keep on building through the draft, man. You've been doing that. You drafted Jeff Okudah a couple years ago as a cornerback. Last year, they drafted my boy from Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson, on the defensive line. So just keep on doing that. Keep on building up the defense little by little. And then eventually, because on the offensive side of the ball, besides tight end now, all they really need is a new quarterback potentially with Jared Goff, So they really just need to start focusing on their defense. And in a couple of years, I think the Lions could be good. They're almost like the opposite of the Jets. The Jets are a young team with a good defense, when the Lions are the opposite. They're a young team with a good offense. You know what I'm saying?
No, I definitely agree, and I will say this on the Justin Fields comments. He may be an Ohio State quarterback, but he bred it from Georgia, baby. I just had to throw that in there. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah. Nice.
Who do you
Anyways,
think's gonna win this game?
honestly, man, I'm going with the Bears. I honestly think, like I said, I think this, like we basically discussed over the past 2 weeks, this offense is finally starting to click, and a big reason is because of Claypool, in my opinion. Like I said, he brings a certain type of energy to any team in general. I mean, like he's just an overall great guy. So I think the Bears win this game 28-8. Wow, not 28-8. 28-18. Sorry, I can't speak. And I think like you said, I think the Lions just need to build, maybe make some moves in the offseason. I don't know what big players are on their last year, their contracts. Defensive wise, when season later goes on, we'll have to get into that. But yeah, I think the Bears win this game.
Yeah, honestly, like I know Chase Claypool had a very a pedestrian week, and I think he only had 2 catches, and I think he had a run. But the whole thing is he's going to get incorporated into this offense slowly, and it's almost like the fact he's there it almost spreads the field out. You know what I'm saying? Because people really undervalue how big Chase Claypool is. Chase Claypool, dude, is 6'4", 240. That's a big dude. Like that. He's a big physical receiver.
You gotta think of it like this. Not to cut you off, but Mike Evans, he's known as probably the biggest red zone threat in the NFL, and he's 6'5", 240, I believe. Or no, I think he's 230. Now that I think about it, so you're right. Claypool is massive
big dude.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Or I know he's older now, but in his prime, you think of Julio Jones. He's 6'3", 220.
Calvin Johnson, even then, he's retired, but he was 6'6", 240, I think. I don't like.
Right. So it's even if Claypool had a pedestrian week, like I said, it's almost like his presence spreads the offense out. And there's a reason why one of Chase Claypool's nickname is Mapletron, because he's a Canadian and he's got a similar build. Not saying he's as good, similar build as Calvin Johnson. So I'm gonna go with the Bears on this one. I hope they turn their season around because their potential is through the roof right now. I got the Bears winning 28-24 and a little bit of a shootout, and it should be a good game. So let's go into an AFC battle right now between the Denver Broncos, who are 3-5, and the Tennessee Titans, who are 5-3. So Malik Willis, rookie out of Liberty, has started the last 2 games with Ryan Tannehill being out with an ankle injury. And while sorry, I lost my train of thought. Malik Willis has not had the best receivers around him. It is looking like Ryan Tannehill will resume the starting job whenever he gets fully healthy. Malik Willis has just been a game manager, and he just doesn't really look the best, honestly, and that's expected from a 3rd-round pick. Now the Broncos got rid of one of their key pieces on defense. They got rid of Bradley Chubb. They sent him to the Dolphins. Now Shane, the Broncos, they're got a really good defense, top 5 statistically. Do you think the Broncos defense will continue to be top 5, or do you think they're going to start to fall off without Bradley Chubb?
I don't think they'll fall out. I think they'll go to if I had to pick between number 5 to 10 in ranking, I think they'll end up being 8th best. They'll still be good, but Bradley Chubb, he's when he's on the field, when he's not injured, he's a phenomenal player. So his presence will be felt on this defense when obviously it's not there. So I don't think they'll fall too bad, but there will be some effects of him not being there.
So the Broncos, a lot of hype in the offseason, but there is, season's still young. Theoretically, they could. This is a team that could still win 10 games. I'm not saying they will, but it's not out of the picture. The season's not over yet. But there's one person who can fix this for the Broncos, who can rebound, and you know who that man is, Shane. It's Russell Wilson. I think this season, right now, if Russ wants to turn the season around, it's in his hands. Prove to everyone why you got that massive extension. Prove that you're not a system QB. Prove that Pete Carroll did not make you. You got the weapons around you. There's a reason why they didn't trade Jerry Jeudy. They think that this offense can make the playoffs. And if anyone wants to turn it around, it is Russell Wilson. The Broncos' season is in his hand. The ball's in his court. Now to the Titans, Derrick Henry, after his slow start, is showing how much of an impact he is for the Titans' offense. He is this team's offense. There's really nothing else to say. If you stop Derrick Henry, you stop the Tennessee Titans. And the Titans' defense is very underrated. I think they did a very good job against the Chiefs, keeping them in check. Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, Kevin Byard, just to name a few. They all look really good. And the Titans' defense is pretty underrated, and I feel like people don't talk about that a lot. And Shane, do you have anything else you want to add before you give us your picks for this game between the Broncos and Titans?
No. Actually, yeah. So I was looking up some statistics, and you mentioned Derrick Henry being comeback player of the year earlier in one of our other earlier games when we were talking about Geno Smith. And you're right. I think Derrick Henry should be top contender. He is leading the NFL once again in rushing yards. And I think it's crazy because in the beginning of the season, they were writing him off. They're like, oh, he's getting banged up more because they give him the ball too much. They 280 rushes a year. All that bull crap. Well, he's a power back. He's going to get a lot of carries. Do you think I'll have like a little rebound question for you? Do you think Derrick Henry is starting to decline, or do you think he's still in the middle of his prime? Do you think he can still produce like 2019 Derrick Henry?
No. So here's the thing. He is getting older. I mean, he's 28 years old, and running backs don't typically age well. And it's really kind of crazy to think that like as a 28-year-old as a running back, you're kind of not at the tail end of your career, but you're on the bad side of 20. You know what I'm saying? Like quarterbacks can play up until their 30s, but no, you won't see a running back play up until they're 35. So, I mean, I don't think Derrick Henry is slowing down, but I do think he is going to start too soon, but not right now, because, his age is definitely going to become a factor sooner rather than later as a running back. And even he agrees that right now the best running back in football is Nick Chubb. I mean, Derrick Henry said that himself. When Nick Chubb is a very similar breed to Derrick Henry, and he's a couple years younger. He's 2 years younger than him, so...
Yeah, no, I think Derrick Henry he's just different. Like he's in a league in his own. Like in his prime, he was in a league of his own. Like nobody could touch. Literally, no one could touch Derrick Henry because he just stiff arm him right off the field. But my pick for this game, I honestly think the Broncos are going to win this game. I mean, like you said about Russell Wilson, he needs to step up and anytime anything's ever challenged Russell, he's stepped up. So I think the Broncos will win this game 24-20.
I think the Broncos are going to win this game. I think they're going to win 23-16. And like I said, Shane, the season's in his hands. The ball is in his court for Russell to deliver.
All right, next on to our next game. It's going to be the Jaguars, who are 3-6, versus the Chiefs, who are 6-2. Kansas City has won 10 straight games in November, a streak that began in Mahomes' first year starting. He's 12-2 as a starting quarterback in November games, which is actually pretty crazy when you really think about it. It just shows you how good Patrick Mahomes is right off the gate. Like, he doesn't have to get started. Last week against Tennessee, the Chiefs ran for only 77 yards. Mahomes had 63 of them on scrambles, and the other 14 came from 13 carries from the trio of running backs from Kansas City. And none of them had a longer carry than, I believe, 4 or 5 yards. So my question for you here, Will, we'll get into the Jaguars in a second, but my question here for you, Will, for the Chiefs, do you think the Chiefs need to fix, like, obviously the Chiefs are a great team. We all know this. Patrick Mahomes, he's a front line for MVP again. Do you think the Chiefs need to improve their running game more for them to be a more dominant team come playoff time?
Now, I got to say, yeah. But one thing that people say about the Bills is they have one weakness. They don't have a run game. And you see the Chiefs are the same way. And NFL is obviously a passing league now. Everyone knows that. This is not a surprise, but it doesn't help when there's about 4 minutes left in the game to have a good running back who can milk the clock away. They don't need to be a Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, but a player like Miles Sanders, who is a good running back, but he's not like elite, or Zeke. Like Zeke is not elite anymore, but Zeke is still a very solid running back. Someone like that, who has, like I said, he can milk the clock with them, Those are the running backs that you at least need. Josh Jacobs is another example. He's on the better tier of that, but you get what I'm saying. Like, they're not like elite, but they're just still a solid running back. And the Chiefs could use a guy like that, because I feel like that's the reason why, where if the Chiefs don't continue to win, that might be a big question mark, is not having the best of run games. But they're obviously still good. They're the Kansas City Chiefs, but that is one of their weaknesses on offense. They don't have a stable run game.
They haven't ever since. It seems like ever since Patrick Mahomes, they've been really focusing on the passing attack rather than the rushing attack. And everybody, like, I still believe this to this day. If you don't have a good run game, you don't really truly have a great offense. So they definitely need to find someone or find a way to get the running game back into the mix. As for the Jaguars, they, me and Will both, I can say more than Will, obviously. I was very high on the Jaguars this year, Trevor Lawrence, and they just have not performed ever since the beginning of the year. So my question for you here, Will, is do you think this is another tank year and, get a couple good draft picks for the Jaguars? And do you think Trevor Lawrence is starting to show some bust quarterback tendencies?
Now the Jaguars are 3-6, and I think they were 3-14 last year. Do not quote. I think they were. They were the worst team. So I mean, they've tied their win total from this year, and also I love the trade they made for Calvin Ridley, because it sets up their future well. You look at their draft. They drafted Devin Lloyd, who's been a solid stud, and Trayvon Walker from Georgia, who was he worth the first round pick? That time will tell. He was considered a project, someone that's going to have to develop his skills and whatnot. So we'll have to see. But I really feel like the Jaguars' future is bright. I don't really think that we can call Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I don't think we can call him a bust. I think we just got to wait, because next year their team is looking good at receiver with Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Zay Jones / Marvin Jones Jr., whoever is the four of them. That's a solid receiving room. But we can't see that until Calvin Ridley's suspension's lifted for gambling. So we'll have to see. But, I mean, you can't deny that this is a solid offense on paper. Would you not agree? Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones Jr.
No, 100%. That's a unit right there. That's honestly that could be a playoff type of offense when you really look at it.
Right. So I think we cannot fairly judge Trevor Lawrence until next year, until we see how he is, until when he's playing with an elite wide receiver like Calvin Ridley. In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean you know how the NFL is. They're very quick to criticize the quarterback position. So I just wanted to see your opinion on that, because it's happened to a lot of quarterbacks. It's happened to Daniel Jones. It's happened to some other one, Ryan Tannehill, even Dak Prescott. It's happening to Justin Fields right now. Even when Jimmy Garoppolo first started, starting when he went over to the 49ers. So, who do you have winning that game?
I think the Chiefs are going to win this game somewhat easily, 31-20. I don't see any. If Trevor Lawrence beats Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead, holy shit, that's going to be a hell of an upset. I just don't see that happening. 31-20 Kansas City. But this will definitely be the biggest win of his career if he can beat not arguably, the best quarterback in football and on the road. That will be the best win of his career easily.
Yeah, I don't see it happening either. I have 35-10 Chiefs, and I think Patrick Mahomes just continues to show like he's the next. Well, he is. He's currently the generational quarterback in the NFL.
So let's go into our next game, which is between the Houston Texans, who are 1-6-1, versus the New York Giants, who are